Here we go, brother. I was passed on to you guys from. In fact, I'm actually wearing the t-shirt right now, or the hoodie right now. FAM, if you can see it.
Oh,
So
cool. Yep.
functional adaptive movement. We work down in New Zealand, coaching everybody with disabilities. Right, like it doesn't matter. The door is open. Walk on in. Let's have a fun time out on that dance floor, and let's figure it all out. And yeah, I was passed over to you guys, and you're doing some incredible work, man. So I'm going to give you the mic and let you do the old intro and all that nonsense.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. So I'm Whitney. I'm the director of our fitness and aquatic and high performance sports programs at Turnstone. We're located in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So, our kind of big claim to fame is we're an Olympic and Paralympic training site. So we're blessed to have our U.S. men's and women's goalball teams train out of Turnstone. For those who don't know, like goalball is a phenomenal sport. It's so much fun. It's a Paralympic sport. Unfortunately, most people don't know what it is because they've never heard of it. And the reason that is because there's no parallel sport. There's no able-bodied sport. Like wheelchair basketball has basketball, power soccer has soccer, but unfortunately, goalball doesn't have that parallel sport to it. So most people don't know what it is, but it's a sport for visually impaired athletes. It was actually made back in like World War II for veterans coming home who happened to lost their vision. Started off as like a rehab sport, and then it grew into like a Paralympic sport. So but in 2015, the men's and women's team, they moved here to Turnstone. They started training at our facility, and then we've been working with them and training them ever since. So, but that's just one piece of the pie here at Turnstone. We're a very unique facility in the fact that we serve so many different people and we have so many different services all under one roof here at Turnstone. So we have an amazing adaptive fitness facility. All of our machines are accessible for clients in wheelchairs. They don't need to even transfer out of their wheelchairs. The seats all swing away, they pivot. People can back right up into the machines, do the machines in the seated position. We have tons of other accessible equipment here for everyone. We have an amazing warm water pool with like a zero depth ramp. So we can transfer clients in like an aquatic chair. We can push them down. We have a really nice chairlift that we can get people in, transfer on, and get them in the water. And then we actually have like a scooch transfer. So clients in wheelchairs can wheel up to this. They can transfer on these steps, and these steps go right into the pool. So they can just transfer right down into the water. So we're blessed to have that here in Fort Wayne. The water temperature we keep around 90 degrees. So it's warm water, it's therapeutic. And then we have an amazing adaptive sports and recreation program here at Turnstone. We offer tons of different sports, whether it's wheelchair basketball, power soccer, wheelchair rugby. We have an adaptive track program. We have a sled hockey program. We offer different recreational activities. We do like bocce ball, tennis, table tennis, ping pong. We have a whole bunch of different bikes that are all accessible, like 3-wheel bikes. We have a tandem 4-wheel bike that 2 people can ride on. So, and that's kind of all in our fitness and aquatic program. We offer all that for everyone. So whether you're a spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, if you have Parkinson's disease, anything along those lines, we have a program or we have a service that will meet your needs. So, and that's only half of the stuff that we do, because we have so many other things too. So we have a full pediatric therapy staff that includes physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. We have 3 daycare rooms that we have, like daycare for children. It's an inclusive environment. So the kids with disabilities and kids without disabilities can be in that daycare system. The kids that do have disabilities, it's like a one-stop shop. So instead of the parents having to take them to daycare and then take them to PT or take them to speech, they can get all that done right here at Turnstone. So it's a big relief for the parents. They can just drop their kids off. They know they're in good hands. All the therapy services are done. They pick them up, they go home. So, and then we have an adult day center here. So any adults with disabilities. A spouse can drop them off here. And again, they can receive different therapy services, but they do arts and crafts, they get a lunch. There's a big social aspect of it too, that way they can all socialize. They can have their time, having fun outside of their family. All of those members in the adult day service program, they can come down and they can utilize the fitness center, the pool, the track. And then at the end of the day, their loved ones, they come and get them, they take them home. And it just gives them time, one, to experience being social here at Turnstone, but their loved ones then have time to get things done, on their own as well.
Wow.
We have a full memory care unit as well. So people that with diagnosis of dementia, it's kind of the same thing. It's a day program. They can come here. We take care of them. And again, it gives time for their loved ones or spouses to have time for themselves. We have an equipment loan program as well. And this is utilized by everyone in the Fort Wayne community. If they need assistive devices, if they need a wheelchair, anything like that, they can call in. If we have it, we loan it out for free. There's no charge. They can keep it as long as they need it. And then whenever they're done with it, if they want to give it back, so to like redonate it, they can, but they can keep it as well.
Wow. Truly changing tides, mate, like providing people just with the help and the care that they need, and it's so beautiful to hear and see. And I think stuff like what you're doing and facilities like Turnstone kind of sets the precedent, right? And everyone else has to follow suit, even if it is just, okay, we're going to install a wheelchair ramp into our gym or into our leisure center, right? Just something so basic and small, right? Of just like, I'm going to learn how to say hello, my name is yada yada in sign language, right? And I think that is so important, and it all comes from the fancy dancy stuff like Turnstone. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like we're blessed in the spot that we are at. I mean, I do feel like we are the gold standard, but we hold ourselves at a very high standard too. So we have a lot of different facilities that reach out to us, and we offer assistance to everyone that wants help, like whether it's just disability awareness, like first person language, whether it's like actual facility design and how we can be more inclusive. We try to give back to everyone, anyone that calls us and asks questions, we try to help them as much as we can. So it's not a competition to us. Like for us, we want every fitness facility, we want every gym, every studio, we want them to implement these things. That way they can serve more people wherever they're at. So, anyone with a disability should never be told no, they can't do something, or oh, I'm sorry, we don't have room for you, or there's no access for you. It should be universal for every fitness facility, every business, every place should offer it.
Yeah, completely agreed. Like in my opinion, like equal opportunity is the number one, right? Like it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, whatever. It's just like, okay, cool. How do we create it so it's kind of a level playing field, and then the responsibility is on you, right? You've got to get to the gym, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you've got to do the work. I can't lift the weight for you. But it's like, how do we do that, right? How do we lift people up, literally and metaphorically speaking, to get them there? And that's massive. In your opinion, then, how do we get all gyms accessible for people living with disabilities?
No, that's a really good question. And in my opinion, it comes back just to education. So we have to inform these businesses, and we have to be an advocate for everyone. And we need to let these businesses know that it's the right thing to do. The equipment itself, to be more inclusive or to be accessible, isn't that much more expensive than a normal piece of equipment. So it's just educating them on that, letting them know, hey, there's option that's universally designed to serve way more people. And if you purchase that piece of equipment, you can serve everyone versus this piece of equipment. So I think some of that's just education. I think that's the biggest part of it is that, and then letting businesses know and corporations know, especially in the fitness facility, that there's a big need for it. I mean, there's a big population that would utilize fitness centers. if it was more accessible to them. So I forget the stats and the percentages, but I think it's roughly 35% of the population has a disability. And that's
Wow.
a big number. I mean, those people need access to fitness facilities just like anyone else. And the people with disabilities, they usually have a higher secondary risk factor of like obesity, if they're sedentary, high blood pressure, all that. So they need it even more to have access to these facilities where they can go in, improve their health, be active, and have that social interaction where they can make connections.
Sure, man. Like, I think, fitness is that catalyst, creating an environment where we get them in and just be like, okay, just do something like Zumba,
Mhm.
aqua aerobics, weightlifting, whatever it is, whatever your sport is.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, cool. And now we're getting all the social benefit, the psychological benefit, and it kind of just branches out from there. And it's like, how do we get people into this very primal state of just moving the body, right? And then everything else kind of seems like it just improves. And that's great because that's no longer our job. We get to just like, hey, pick that dumbbell up and try not to hit yourself in the face, and good job. Put it back down and try again, and we
Yep.
get to stay on that side rather than trying to dissect somebody's brain and working on the social skills, right? It's just like, no, let's get them moving. Let's get everybody moving in some capacity.
Mhm.
Things start improving, and then we can communicate with one another and help to improve it from there.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Like places like Turnstone blow my mind, mate. It really does. Like, you travel around, you see so many places, and you're like, guys, we need to be able to do this for these people, whether it's lower socioeconomic group, whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's ability, whatever it is, right? We need to be able to do this. And then there's places like yourselves that just turn up and you're like, I told you it can happen. This can
Yeah.
be done. And I feel like that is the catalyst again, is all the other businesses around turn around and be like, oh shit, like we can actually do this now. Like, because they're
Mhm.
proving us that we're dropping the ball on 35%. And that's insane. Like, do you know that if that's the US population or is that the world or?
I'm not sure. I don't. I think from what I understand, I think that's just a U.S. population, but that
Wow.
percentages could be off. It's somewhere close to that, but I'm not sure what the exact percentage is.
Wow. I know it was somewhere around a quarter of the
Mhm.
New Zealand population. And bearing in mind, there's only, 5 million roughly, give or take,
Yeah.
like a quarter of that isn't a lot, right? Of people in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a
Yep.
great deal,
It
relatively
is.
speaking, right? And you're just
Yep.
like, guys, like that's 25%, that's 35%.
Yep.
If you're worrying about competition of your local gym, quote unquote,
Mhm.
right? Why aren't you providing for these people?
Exactly.
Let's be honest. There's charities out there. There's funding out there. You can create a social enterprise where the athlete doesn't actually have to pay.
Yep.
And you get paid as a business, which is great, which is number one as a business, right? It needs to make money, otherwise we're all screwed. The athlete doesn't have to pay, so you can Robin Hood that shit. And people who are able to afford to be a little bit more philanthropous, if that's a word, kind of
Yep.
dish out those coins, they can do, and it's kind of like a win-win-win. To me, it's a no-brainer. The problem is like because it's kind of new and it's
Mhm.
not really in the forefront of society, right? Of marketing, it's not sexy.
Yep.
It's hard.
It is. Yeah. I mean, we've been around for 79 years and it's
Wow.
taken us a long time to get to the point we're at. And sometimes I feel like it's intimidating to other businesses and people when they come in, they see Turnstone and how big it is and what we've done.
Yeah.
But I always have to remind them, like, it has taken us 79 years to get to this point. Like when we first started, it didn't look like this. We were tiny. We started off in a little room and we've had to grow and grow and grow and grow and build a program to where it is now. So, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it.
Hmm. Where do you think most fitness institutes will keep it as under the umbrella of fitness, right? Where do you think most trip up in terms of accessibility?
I So one, fitness facilities, I mean, it's a business. I mean, they're there to make a profit for most of them. And a lot of times it's the facility design itself. They try to squeeze in as many pieces of equipment, as many pieces of cardio machines as they can. because they want to be able to get as many people in the facility as possible. But when you do that, you're creating an environment where if someone is in a wheelchair, not everything's accessible. So you look at these big gyms, tons of equipment, they're super nice. But in those gyms, someone that does utilize that, maybe that's in a wheelchair or a power chair, they might only have access to 2 or 3 pieces of equipment total in the entire building, because everything else is so tight, so close together. There's just a lack of accessibility to the actual design. So with us at Turnstone, I know we have everything spaced out. You can fit a power chair or a wheelchair between every single piece of our equipment. So we utilize the floor and the space as best we can. We could, if we change it, we could have way more equipment in the facility, but that would mean then we would sacrifice the accessibility of all of our machines and equipment and cardio. So we intentionally have everything spaced out 36 inches. Power chair can come in, they can do a complete turn between each one of our pieces of equipment. So in other facilities, that's just not the mindset. And a lot of it is because of revenue. Like their goal is to get as many members as possible to join their gym, join their facility. It's revenue based, it's pushed, it's based on that. So creating that space, creating an area where people with disabilities can come in and access equipment, whether that's just a small section or at least opening it up a little bit to their facility. I mean, that would have a huge impact.
Yeah, for sure. It absolutely winds me up when gym owners or facility managers use the whole revenue kind of get out of jail free card. I'm like, there's so many ways you can make money in this place. Like, you just got to get a little bit more skilled as a businessman. Like to me, cramming them all together so you can get more equipment in there is like putting everything really high up and cramming them all together. It's like you can't, because everybody who's not 6'5" will start complaining. Like myself, I'm 5'10" on a good day, you know what I mean? I'm like, I can't reach that, mate. Like I can't.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh no, we're getting more in here. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So why would we now do it at quote unquote normal level, whatever that is, right? Let's space it out. You got more space. And also it creates that social change, right? We can start to have that conversation of just, oh, guys, why is there so much space? Oh, actually, because if a member comes in such and such a situation, they're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And you can start to have that conversation in real time, right, on the floor.
Yep. I think the other aspect too, I think it scares some people. A lot of people are scared. They don't know how to interact with people with a disability. They might say something wrong or whatever, but I mean, again, a lot of that's education. Like, don't be scared to interact with someone with a disability. Always ask questions, but don't be afraid to interact with someone just because you're kind of skittish on, oh, well, I better not say that. I don't know what to, one, you could always educate yourself or even ask, hey, is there something I can help you with before you just jump in and you think you have to help someone? That's something that we teach here all the time. Like, don't assume someone needs help. Wait for someone to ask for help if they want it, but don't assume just because someone's in a power chair or a wheelchair or is walking with crutches that they need help. Like, you should always ask first and don't assume. But I think there's also some fear of like staffing, having to staff these fitness facilities with trainers or physios or whatever that have worked with people with physical disabilities. I think that can be scary for some facilities as well. Like, they might have staff personal trainers there that are really good, that work with able-bodied people every day. But once someone comes in with a spinal cord injury, they haven't worked with anyone with a spinal cord injury. There's some apprehension there. So I think it's finding a new line of fitness staffing that are educated, working with people with physical disabilities, that have an understanding of, hey, this is the knowledge that I need to work with this population, and getting that out into the fitness community too, I think that would have a huge impact. Because I think once you have confidence and once you have staff that are educated and have experience working with that population, I think you're going to be able to bring in that population more and be able to serve it.
Yeah, for sure. And you get rid of that social stigma, right? And that's, as we both know, is an absolute killer. Everybody's like, oh, maybe this, maybe that
Yeah.
prejudice, the unwritten rule, no one's speaking. He's just like, oh, guys, come on. Like
Yeah.
we're not in the 16th century anymore. We can communicate to one another as human beings,
Yes.
and yeah, I completely agree. I think, that level 3 PT cert that everybody goes through just to get qualified, kind of get a high five and a pat on the back and be like, right, off you go work in a Globo gym. It should have some sort of module of, okay, well, there might be a seated athlete, there might be an athlete with a
Yep.
neurodivergence, right? And even if it's just a drop in the ocean, just something, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter, just humorous, right? And you're like, oh, you kind of planted the seed of, oh yeah, like there might be an athlete coming in who is slightly different. You're like, yes, i.e. everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all slightly different. I'm going to come in, you're like, oh, okay, like his shoulders are a little bit bunged up because he's played rugby for years. All right, great, I'm going to have to adapt some things. You're going to
Yep.
come in, you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to slap some more weight on the back because you're an absolute savage. These things are just going to have to be adapted on the fly, and like it plants that seed, right? And I think that's really important, especially when, let's be honest, most people do these qualifications, whether they're in university or maybe in that 2 years of like college or last end of high school, right? So they're like
Mhm.
17, 18, 19. You're like, just plant the seed into the youth, and they can run it forward.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. Brother, I got 3 questions.
Okay.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
The greatest piece of life advice that I have ever received. I'd have to go back to my 7th grade teacher. He always told me to keep my values in perspective. And that's something that I constantly tell myself that to this day. So I try to be honest and be true to my core values, and I try to keep that in perspective at all times.
Wow. What's the worst piece of life advice you've ever received?
The worst? Oh man. I, I don't know. If I said something, I'd probably be making it up. I don't know if I can answer that.
Oh, that's good. If you've not remembered it, that's also very good.
Yeah.
No, that's all right. That's all right, bro. All
Okay.
right. 3 words you tell your younger self.
My younger self. Um, let's see. I would say honesty, compassion, and commitment.
Wow. I definitely think that compassion word is something that people really need to digest and understand for themselves, right? Especially coming back towards themselves, that self-compassion. Like I think the world's lacking it at the moment. And definitely I'm in that category, So it's something that we all need to digest and have a conversation with our own selves about.
Yeah. No, for
Uh,
sure. It's oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got a bonus question.
Okay.
What is the biggest lesson Turnstone has taught you?
Oh man, you're coming at me with some good questions.
I'm just interested, brother. Like that's all. Like,
So I've learned so much here, and whether that's through like physiology and working with people with different disabilities, but I think it truly does come back down to the compassion. Like I see people come in here, I work with people every day, and for some of the members and clients at Turnstone, like this is their only place where they get to socialize. Like this is a big deal to them to come in here, to be able to hang out, have fun, like talk to me, talk to my staff, and see them laughing and having fun. And just to be appreciate, like you just appreciate what you have on a daily basis, because what I have, I'm blessed because I get to see people that have a lot less than me every day, and we see that on a daily basis here. There's someone new that might come in that might have a challenge or a struggle that they're dealing with, but then they meet someone else that's here that has it worse than them. And then it gives them that perspective too, like, oh man, I'm complaining about this that I have, but then I just met this other person and they have it way worse than I do. And then it kind of gives them inspiration and hope, like, hey, I don't have it as bad as I thought I did. Like I can get through this. I see this person over here working hard, busting their butt, and I'm going to do the same. It gives them that motivation. So it's, I don't know, it's very, it just makes you more self-aware, I guess.
It's super humbling, right?
It is very humbling.
Yeah, and I think you know, being in those positions myself, like time kind of stops for me, and you're just there communicating or just watching some of these individuals, and you're just like, this is an absolute privilege and an honor just to witness what's going on here. You know, just the absolute resilience of human beings is something so special, and we've got a really cool job, man.
Yeah. Yeah. When people people ask me all the time, like, hey, how's it going? And my typical response is, I'm changing lives. And I mean that when I say that. And I think it's kind of getting contagious around here. And, to me, that's almost like I take a lot of pride in that I'm in an opportunity where I am, where I can actually change someone's lives. So
120%, man. It shines through. It looks like that from the outside. And one day, mate, I really, really hope I'm able to visit.
hey, man, we would love to have you.
Thank you, man. Maybe I just get on a rubber dinghy, get over the Atlantic, and I'll get there.
Hey, you keep rowing hard. You get here.
Thank you, brother. All
All
right.
right, man.
Appreciate your time, man, so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. Speak soon.
All right. See ya.
Bye, everybody.